Hi, everybody. Welcome back and happy Wednesday, which is Thursday? Wednesday. Oh my God. Guys, we are still coming off the heels of our trip to Charleston, and it has been crazy and it's been nonstop. Last night we did the after party, and Jason did Anchor Watch with Josh and a few other friends. And I feel like it's just been go, go, go. For those of you who don't know, Jason and I are getting ready to move again at the end of the month. So I feel like every time I'm talking to you guys, we're always moving, we're on the go. And yet again, here we go. So with that, we're not back to talk about that and the personal stuff. We will keep that to members only. Thank you to Jason for gifting another 5 memberships. But we are back to talk about the Vanderpump Rules episode last night, which was an absolute shit show. I have so many questions, and we have one of our good friends, Kiki from the Talk of Shame, who's also on YouTube. She has her podcast. She's on Radio Andy. She's doing the damn thing. And if you're looking for like a really good Hulu doc, yeah, she's on those too. So let's welcome Kiki. Hello.
Hi. And I was on the Today Show this morning.
Oh my gosh. She's busy. Wait a minute. Isn't it only like 8 o'clock there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was on the 8 o'clock segment. You know, they're there in New York. So I, of course, woke up. I woke up at 5 to watch.
Jesus. You don't stop.
I mean, you can't stop. Not in this economy.
You can't stop not in this economy. And guys, I know yesterday too, we were battling with, and I'm not going to get into this on here with you guys because it's just like it's like they always say, don't talk about religion or politics and all of the other stuff. But yesterday obviously was a huge day. And I know that a lot of people were watching that at the same time as Vanderpump Rules. And there was a lot of shit happening. Okay. So we're going to leave that part out of it and get into this part. By the way, for everybody who's watching right now in the live chat and Kiki, I want to know, what would you rate last night's episode 1 to 10, 10 being the highest?
Ooh, I feel like I would give it, honestly, I would give it an 8 just because there were so many awkward moments. Like I was actually getting sort of just like cringy watching it, but then it was like, it's nice to know that that tension is still possible because you thought like, okay, we went through all the scandal, all the drama is gone. Nope, there's still tension and weird friction.
Yeah, you know, when Lala was explaining, and so like also Alex Baskin, that coming off the heels of season 10, with it being so explosive that this could be something that would be hard to compete with, I was like, I didn't even think about it like that. I just thought that it would be a shoo-in, that it would be a great season. But then we get into this season and we are finding out things that we didn't know before. Like, for example, when we kick off, Scheana's explaining the fact that Tom Sandoval gave her money during the pandemic when her podcast got canceled. She had no money. She was pregnant. And I love Scheana. You know, like we're friends with Scheana, right? But
yeah,
I had a conversation, a very real conversation with Jason, and I was like, this terrifies the shit out of me because like she's in entertainment. We're technically in entertainment, right? We're doing the same thing. We're just not like, nobody is going to end us unless we end ourselves, right? But
yeah.
at the same time, you've made a shit ton of money. How are you needing your friend to give you money? That's like the part that scares me, you know?
I never judge people because I know that you just never know what anyone is doing. You never know what
Right.
responsibilities they have, who they're taking care of, and so I just think it's possible, and
Oh, it's
especially
totally
if you
possible.
are investing in properties and, maybe those properties aren't getting rented out like you thought maybe, you kind of never know.
Yeah. No, I totally think it's possible. And I this is not like a Sheena bashing situation. It's just more of like an eye opening thing for me to sit there and look at it and see that this was, like a situation that she was in after making
Mhm.
so much money for so long. I'm like, this is really scary.
Well, it also, it gives sort of, validity to, I don't think that the way people are approaching these Bravo reality reckoning lawsuits are necessarily the right way. But I do believe that there does need to be, fairer wages and, union benefits for a lot of these reality stars who have been entertaining us for a decade or more in a lot of cases. To see that they still are living, quote, paycheck to paycheck is kind of eye-opening.
Do you feel like the cast, like different cast members from these shows, since they do like obviously have reruns and like I had somebody send me, I at least probably 6 people send me, Adam, I saw you on episode or season 3, episode 13. And I was like, what, they're playing season 3? And they said, yeah, they're doing reruns all week of Vanderpump Rules. And I'm like, that's wild because they don't get paid for any of that, right? They got a set wage.
No,
But do you
they get a
think that
set wage. Yeah. Do I think what?
Do you think they should get residuals for that?
I mean, I definitely believe that people, actors like Jennifer Aniston and those people of the world, they are able to live comfortably. They really don't have to work anymore because residuals back then really did carry over and pay for a lot of your lifestyle. And the fact that, reality stars didn't get that benefit, it sucks. Now, the reason is because the reason we get so much reality is because it's so cheap to produce. But
Right.
there's got to be a good in between because when you find out that, someone like Spencer Pratt is not getting paid and I watch The Hills, sometimes I'll just be like, I want to watch The Hills right now. I will watch
Sometimes
it
I watch it
over
on a
and
flight.
over. And to know that, he doesn't get any money is kind of messed up considering like it's still highly entertaining.
I had a conversation with Jason about this because when we went to Vegas, Jason did Cirque for 13 years, right? And he was like the face of the show. And there was like a billboard on Sunset. And when we went to Vegas, we walked through one of the casinos and there was this massive slot machine with like 5 different slots with his face all over it. And every time they advertise the show, they still use his face. And he hasn't done the show in 10 years. And I said to
Wow.
him, I said, does that not piss you off that you don't get residuals? And he said, no. When I signed my contract, I had 2 options. One is you get a higher payout up front, or 2 is you get a lesser payout and then you get the residuals. And I said, oh, okay. So at least you had the option. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, being given the option, I think is important because you decide, am I going to bet on myself, right? Like, do I think that this is something that's going to be successful or do I just cash out? And yeah, having that choice, I think should be given.
I mean, it even kind of takes you back to like people who win the lotto. They can either take out their big buyout or they can get residuals. And I'm not going to lie, if I were one of these reality TV stars, I would be the person, maybe this is a stupid call, but I would be the person who would say, I would rather take the bigger lump sum now than take the residuals.
I think it would depend. I would look at, who was producing it, who were my cast members. And again, if I was a first season reality star, the reality is I probably would take the big payout. And then if that became a success going forward, I would negotiate based on how well I did in that and
Right.
decide. But normally, kind of entryway, it's hard to bet on yourself.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Now, moving back into the episode, what did you think about Scheana when she was explaining that she's struggling with not forgiving Tom, who's been there for her in the past, going back to him helping her financially? Like, she's obviously in between a rock and a hard place, and right now she's really struggling with it. But then I was seeing a lot of the fan comments that were like, you are such a shitty friend to Ariana. And I didn't view it that way. I was like, well, this was also a person that was very prominent in her life for a long time.
Agreed. I had to go back and figure out, how long she had been friends with Sandoval versus Ariana. And my understanding is that Scheana and Tom worked together at Villa Blanca. And then about a year or so later, that's when she met Ariana. So the
Right.
the timeline is similar, but she did meet Sandoval first. I feel compassion for her because I really was putting herself in her shoes and I said, if I had a friend right now that I've been friends with and then they got a girlfriend, 4 or 5 years later and then they broke up, it would I'm getting broken up with too. Like I have to make a decision. And if I've been for so I understand exactly where she's coming from. Um, and while I think that the fan comments, online maybe were, negative towards Scheana,
Right.
we saw on Watch What Happens Live, Scheana herself told me when I was on her show, she said, I've never won a Bravo Watch What Happens Live poll. Never, never. The audience hates me. She actually won all of them last night. And so I found that interesting because it seems that the audience was able to empathize with her.
We're going to revisit this conversation in a second because I know where some people got pissed last night, especially at her. But before we get back into that, we ended up panning over from Lake Tahoe back to Los Angeles, and we see where Ariana is doing the shoot for her Single AF Cocktails book. She looked absolutely stunning. Katie shows up to the set, and she kind of details this as her breakup album. Now, I always watch as like a viewer, but then I watch as like one of the people, like kind of like you and I, who are sitting back wondering like the logistics of all of these things. And in my mind, I couldn't help but wonder, does Bravo get a piece of that cake because she is talking about it as being her breakup album? She is naming the drinks, she is showing the photo shoot, or is that just part of her story? Right?
I absolutely believe at this point Bravo gets a cut of anything that is being shown on the television. We all know about the Bethany Clause, and I don't think since the Bethany Clause has been instituted, if you are advertising your
Anything.
business on Bravo, I think absolutely they are getting a piece of it.
Have you seen the QR codes now that are popping up?
I don't know if I've noticed that.
Oh my gosh. Now at the bottom of like, if you watch like any of the Housewives shows or any of the Bravo shows, there's a QR code if they're talking about a business and it's like shop here. And it just like comes up for 2 seconds and you can scan it with your phone and you can just go shop the store. And I'm like, well, yeah, if they're promoting it like that, then you're definitely getting a piece of the pie. Right. So
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, everything's turned into a giant, QVC at this point.
ay. Okay. So before we come back over to the Single AF Cocktails book photo shoot, we have Tom Sandoval who wants to do a yoga / meditation situation, and this is already so fucking uncomfortable. I have to be honest with you, because watching him try to reintegrate to the group, it would be less uncomfortable if he wasn't so on pins and needles. Like he's kind of like he's like a Sour Patch thing where he's like, first he's sweet and then he's sour. He's like, I can't help like this, you guys being so kind to me and it means so much. Fuck you, Lala. And it's like, wait a minute. What the fuck just happened? Like, what just happened? But he can't help it because he's always so animated. And I remember even working at Tom Tom when he would come in, and if the cameras weren't rolling, he was just the coolest guy. And the minute that the cameras rolled, he all of a sudden got this strong jaw, very animated, very aggressive, emotional. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? I don't want anything to do with that.
Tom Sandoval is a mactor, as we in the New York Times article that he's a
Actor.
model actor. And I just, as I'm sort of trying to just compartmentalize him as I watch these shows, I'm realizing he's actually giving us exactly who he is. He is Zoolander. He is this caricature almost. And I think he's just been in LA for so long. I don't know if we'll ever get to the core of like who he really is, because I think that this has actually become part of his DNA. This type of personality of turning it on for cameras, turning it off, and just like having these very performative actions. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure you saw today the Vanderpump after show that's going viral, where he's like, how you give money to a homeless person? You just, you just walk right up to him and you go like, "Hey man, just hold this real quick," and then you run away real quick. Like he's so but like it makes me laugh. And I'm not saying it's great, but it's like he's giving a Zoolander, and I don't know. It's
There
giving me.
Yeah, I think that there's sometimes where he can be funny, and I think that there's sometimes where he can be very problematic. Like, I don't think that he should have compared
Oh,
Sandoval to George
oftentimes
Floyd.
he's
And
problematic. That's part of
yes,
yeah.
yes, a lot of times he's problematic, but that is kind of funny too because I have a friend who got very famous very quickly, and I remember sitting there with her and her friend, or her and her family, and they said, "Don't change. Like, the only thing that we want from you is to not change." And she has completely changed. And I wonder now, like, even having this conversation, if Tom Sandoval's family sits back in St. Louis and they're like, that is not the same guy that we sent to St. Louis. Like, that's not my baby. That's not my Tom, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he calls himself a celebrity now. And, I could never imagine going home to, my parents and saying something like, "Well, You know, now that I'm like, I've never been single as a celebrity now, so this is gonna be a whole new I could not take myself seriously.
Okay. All right. So when he puts together this meditation class, we can see that this is supposed to be a group bonding experience, whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know how he got stuck with Scheana, but if you saw Sheena's face in this clip, like Scheana, where is it, Scheana? Because I saw your face in this clip and you looked pissed. I'm gonna have to find it. She looked like she wanted to just rip his
But did
face off, and
but
she's
didn't
just
you think
staring
that
at
she
him.
was like but didn't you think she was a bit pissed because Brock didn't come? I felt like she was very angry before she even sat down because Brock was supposed to be back from golfing and wasn't there on time. And so I think she already came into it in a very negative space.
And I think that Brock showed up a little bit tipsy pants, which I said to Jason. Jason was like, "We," and we live. I swear to God, we live in a place like they're about to do this big classic. It's like the PGA Tour here because everywhere you go around where I live right now, I didn't do anything, you guys, with the balloons. What is that? Um, they like all of the golfers and all of the people are coming in and you see them and they're driving and they all have drinks and they have these beers. And I said to Jason, I was like, they drink, right? When they do golf. I think that's what they do. They bond. And he's like, I don't think that they bond that early in the morning over alcohol. And I was like, no, I think they do. I think it's a bunch of bros. Like, I think they just get fucked up and they hit balls. Like, they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, bro, that's a birdie. And I don't even know what a birdie is,
absolutely.
but he was supposed to do 9 holes. He ended up doing 17 holes. He showed up late and she was not having it. And she got stuck next to Tom Sandoval. Okay. So now we're doing a group exercise. And this poor woman who is trying to talk to all of these cast members, she can't get a word in. And we have James and Allie, Lala and Tom Schwartz, Tom Sandoval and Scheana. And then Brock shows up. And she said, if there's an odd number, then pair yourself with another duo. He was like, I'm not doing that shit with Tom and Scheana. So I'm gonna go over here with Brock or with Allie and James. And Scheana was also pissed about that. And I don't think that she was necessarily pissed in that moment because she had to confront any feelings with Tom. I think she was pissed at what the optics were going to look like on camera with her sitting back to back with Tom Sandoval, knowing all of the private conversations she's probably had with Ariana saying like, I'm not going to cave into this. Screw him. I'm not going to be there for him. I'm not going to talk to him. Like I'm never going to forgive him. I'm always team Ariana. And then lo and behold, you're back to back with the guy.
Yeah, but I think also the producers they needed that moment. And I'm sure when they were bringing Brock back from the golf course, they were like, when you go in, do not sit next to Scheana. We need that her and Tom to have a one-on-one moment and we can't have you intervene. So sit on the other side. Because even when she called out and was like, I want you to be in the threesome with this. He's like, no, I'm going to stay over here with Allie and James. Like, he would have never said that to his wife. Like,
Right.
usually Brock does whatever Scheana says. So you know that producers were like, no, you need to stay out of this shot because we need this moment. And I'm sure they didn't warn Scheana that they were going to do that, but I'm sure afterwards she realized that, of course, they needed that. So,
Oi, oi, oi. And then she walks off in the middle of trying to figure out if she's going to sit there or not. And she says, what did she say? She said, I still fucking hate you. And Tom's just like looking
yeah.
down, like, ugh. And, I also saw some comments last night where they're like, Scheana, you're being a little extra about this. And I'm like, guys, you have to remember, and I only know this as being a friend of hers, for a long time. She's very emotional. She's always been very emotional. So now when you bring her husband into it, you bring somebody who she thought she was, was a friend who she was helping out. You bring a restraining order into it. It's affecting her, as she explained, as like doing her mommy duties because she's so focused on now this court case. And that's like driving her insane. Yeah, she's emotional. I could see that.
And I mean, she wasn't wrong because, we see later in the episode when the picture of her taking a picture of a fan outside of the restaurant gets posted on page 6, exactly what happened. The optics became the audience came for her. So she wasn't wrong in that moment of being like, I don't want to be in this intimate moment with Tom because it just feels weird. And she wasn't wrong.
And also, what's kind of fun? Do you remember when that photo came out?
I do.
I remember when that photo came out, and I remember everybody went nuts. And I think I was actually moving at the time, which lo and behold, here we are again. But I remember seeing it and being like, And I texted her and I said, "Are we good?" And she's like, "That is Adam, that is not what it looks like." And she was definitely not having it. She was very short in that moment. And I was like, "Oh, you're pissed. Like this is
Yeah.
not you did not want this to be a thing." And obviously it became a thing. But okay.
But even
What
the
did you
girl
think?
who took the photograph was like, that's not, she had Sheena's back in that moment 'cause she was like, "I asked for the photograph. They all just jumped in, for me and my birthday." And again, the Watch What Happens Live audience even said, "Did people overreact to that picture?" 91% of people said, "Yeah, the audience overreacted." So it seems like people are getting it and on her side a bit.
Good for you, Scheana. Good for you in your new $2.5 million Valley Village home. Sherman Oaks, Sherman Oaks. I'm jealous. Okay. So now, as they're in this meditation exercise, we see Scheana and she is losing her shit and she is still crying. And Jason said last night, he said, "What was this? A 6-minute scene of emotion? Is she trying to win an Emmy?" And Jason and I like battled back and forth last night because I was like, "Don't fucking talk about Scheana like that. Like she's emotional. Like she's going through some shit." He's like, "Adam, are we trying to win an Emmy? Like what is going on right now?" And I was like, "I think that's a little bit aggressive." But it was an emotional situation. And I know that we got little splurts with like Lala and Tom Shorts and he's like, "You're a good mom. You have good eyebrows. I feel your pulse." And I'm like, okay, this is just uncomfortable. But with Scheana and Tom, Scheana had this moment where it was like a revelation and she saw him cry and she felt like it was genuine. And I think that was where we had the switch a little bit that we're about to start seeing play out in the other episodes of her starting to realize, like, you know, I'm not going to hate you anymore. I need to figure this out because we can't, like Lala said at the end of the episode, we can't take this back. So we either move forward or we cut you out.
Yeah, but I think what Sheena's gonna have to do, moving forward, personally, my opinion is she's gonna have to start trusting her friendships with the other people in her life more. And I understand, because again, we understand the history. When she came on, all of the Vanderpump other cast members hated her, and Tom was
Right.
the only one that was like, "No, you're part of this cast. You're in." He was the only one who was inclusive. Now
Right.
the other cast members do feel she's inclusive, and so I get why she's scared because let's say if she does hit hard times again, she's like, I don't, who do I have? And she has to realize, Ariana would take care of her. I think even Katie would help her. Lala would absolutely help her. So I think that if she leans into those relationships more, she can, you know, it will be easier to shed that relationship with Tom Sandoval because I don't think that the relationship with Tom Sandoval serves her.
Okay, that makes sense. And what did you think when Katie was sitting down with Ariana again back at the shoot and asking her, you know, well, if we get to that point, because obviously they know that they're filming, they're doing group things, group exercises. If we get to the point where somebody starts forgiving him, they're cut out of your life, right? And Ariana was just like, we're done.
Look, nobody likes an ultimatum, but as a Sagittarius who is fiercely loyal,
Not a
have
Sagittarius.
I
Let's go.
have I very much, put my friends in a position of like, you better not even, fuck with that person? Absolutely. Is it fair? I don't really care. You're either loyal because, again, my loyalty is very strong. So I understand absolutely. And I know people will say, like, it was her friend too. They've been friends at the same time. I get it. But, there's just times in your life where you are like, you're going to make a choice. Now, do I think that Ariana in even in a year will care if, Sheena's friends with him? Probably not. She'll probably be living her best life and be like, I don't really care what you do. But in that moment, denying access to the people that hurt you is very important for your and that I'm speaking as someone who's had to do that. You do
Right.
not want people who have damaged you to have any access to you, and if it's even if it's through other people that you're connected to.
And also to add on top of this, I find the way that she is delivering this message, and I even again going back to because I sit there and I talk to Jason all night while we're watching this, and I'm like, either she's doing this on camera, being like, yeah, like I'd be done, and that's how she is off camera, or she's doing it to have like this kind of front of being very strong and just like, I'm not going to be aggressive with the ultimatum. And then off camera, she's like, if this bitch does this, then we're good, because with Lala and Stassi, it was very, very different. It was very aggressive when it was like, you are outcasted. If you talk to him, you are done. I won't talk to you. Like, let me just make this really clear. I'm going to draw this line in the sand. You're done. And it was very just like, why are you so angry? You're so
Yeah.
aggressive. Like, we didn't cheat on you. These assholes cheated on you, not us,
Yeah.
them. And Ariana's a little bit more subtle about it.
Yeah, because I think she's just kind of like, look, I'm not here to make demands of your life. I'm just telling you what my boundaries are. And if you want to, be within those boundaries, great. If not, great. Again, I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Okay. So now when we get on the gondola and we have Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval and Brock in the same car, and they start talking, and they're talking about, like, Tom was like, what did you guys think of, the meditation? And Tom Schwartz was like, I really got to a place to Lala. And we're like, that was 7 seconds too long in this episode because nobody cares about that. But I get it. We're filling. Then him and Brock start having the conversation, and Brock was talking about how Scheana was hurt. What did you think about when Tom sort of flipped in that moment and he said, you know what? Let me just say something really quick. What Rachel and I did, we didn't have any like intent to hurt any of you. But what you guys did to us, you fully intended on hurting us. So let's just check that really quick. And I'm like, ugh, this is what Shorts was saying. It's not like, I apologize, but just say I apologize, because that's the only way we're going to get somewhere here.
It's just such a weird argument, and it makes you realize that he has like a bunch of yes people around him, because only a yes person would listen to that argument and be like, yeah, you lied to them for 7 months, but you were never trying to hurt them. And then once they found out the lie, they went after you. That does, like, that argument, just listen to that argument. It doesn't even
That's
make
what
sense.
I mean. That's what we said last night, because we were like, wait a minute. We never tried to hurt anyone. How did you never try to hurt anybody with a 7-month affair? That is the very definition of someone is getting hurt.
Once you lie, you've already intentionally hurt someone. You've created a lie. So that the argument, it fell flat immediately.
I mean,
and then when of course, Brock then gets angry, and then he starts turning it around about, you were the one, your team was the one that started leaking stories about me hooking up with Raquel, which is like, whoa. Now, I don't think that Brock realizes what it means, what off the record means, because in his confessional, he's like, we were told off the record that Tom's team. And I'm like, okay, if you were told off the record, I don't think you're supposed to be saying that in your confessional.
Note to self, everybody. If you tell Brock something, and we love Brock, it's not off the record. It's fully on the record.
Also, though, I will say Brock posted some like old pictures of him from, his farmer days. Oh my God. I had no idea.
Don't get not punched in the face by Scheana. Better back up, girl.
She has nails. She can never punch me.
Never punch somebody in the face. No, I saw this too. Actually, now that you've said that, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? I'll bring it up, guys. But now moving on, when we talked about the whole hooking up story, all of that, and the team, did you believe that, or did you think that Brock was just saying that because Brock was trying to have like a switch around moment where it wasn't Tom Sandoval taking control over the narrative?
I just think he was bringing that up just to point out that, like, he does do things intentionally once he's been called out. But what was interesting to me, this goes to my point of why I just don't think that Tom Sandoval, is serving a purpose in Scheana's life right now, because, we don't know. Let's say that Tom's team did bring that up. We don't know. It's just a rumor. But if he did, it would be because he knows that Scheana has sort of insecurities around that sort of thing because and it felt like someone as a friend who knows their insecurities and says, "Ooh, I'm gonna like put this out there to hurt them back." And and because I don't even know if it was a deflection thing as much as it was as like a you hurt me and now I'm gonna hurt you back because I know, Brock and Raquel have been hanging out and you've told me. Maybe she said to them, like, yeah, Raquel and Brock were like out late last night. I thought it was weird. And who knows? Who knows?
But then what I don't get on top of that is, and by the way, guys, here are the photos that
I wanna see
Kiki
the other
is.
picture. Yeah, look at that.
Uh,
He looks so much better, like, I think that like, I'm not into, like, the big I love rugby players, but he's like, I don't like the too beefy.
oh,
I like
you
this
like the slim
whatever
muscle?
Yeah, there we go.
You are funny. Yeah, there we go. That's him. That's our guy. Okay. So, but the only thing else, like the only other thing that I thought about this too was you are going into this season. So, when that happened, that was at the height of Sandoval when the restraining order and all of this was happening. You're still going into the season, going in with confessional saying that you love this woman, that you don't know if you're going to be with Rachel. You want to be with Rachel. She is the love of your life. And then if in fact your team, which I'm sure you would have a part of, that this would be a conversation because it is your team. If in fact they are planting stories that this woman that you supposedly love is hooking up or was at some point hooking up with your best friend's husband, and you are standing behind that while still claiming that you love her, you're an asshole,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
that's the best way I can't really paint that in a different way. I'm
Yeah.
like,
No, you're so right.
okay. Now, back to the Scheana getting the page 6 article that she saw with the photo. And obviously, that was everywhere, which we talked about. This is one of the things, this is kind of like one of the moments where I start to question what the longevity is of this show. Because when the Hills started getting this sort of notoriety, and they started like everywhere they were going, every time they were filming, TMZ, paparazzi were on top of them. There wasn't really anything that didn't get passed that wasn't at the time in Us Weekly, People Magazine, OK Magazine. And we saw the scenes, we saw where people were meeting up before, which kind of ruins the show. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
a good comparison that I used was for the most part, most of the viewers didn't know that Reality Von Teese was going to come out until it actually finally came out at the finale. And that was a good example of one, no TMZ, no paparazzi, and two, a cast that was able to keep this mum the entire season. Well, they don't get to do that anymore because there's way too many eyes on them. And when you have all of this being highly publicized and you have all of these people who are up your ass who are ruining these stories, and we see them at the beach, we see Tom and Ariana, we see Scheana and Tom. Do you think that this is kind of an indicator that we are nearing the end of this series?
Well, what it's an indicator of to me is that, and that's why I am curious to see how the Valley does, is that they're gonna have to sort of shift how they tell these stories if they want to keep telling them. Because yeah, I mean, I remember I think it was episode 1 of this season when all of the girls went back to Tom Tom and they were dancing and you could see literally the roped off area that all the fans were behind and you could see the flashing pictures and they're just like, "Oh," and I was just
Yeah.
like, it was distracting for me because it just felt so fake in the moment because that also the people who were sitting there realize that they're on display and so and so will we have to hear more stories where, it's, they're on trips or they're in their house or, that sort of thing? Maybe. And also, yeah, I think that's the only way. They're gonna have to really shift. And it doesn't matter anyway, because we don't need the restaurant because clearly those people haven't been working there for years. So we don't, need any of that.
Also, I was asked last night, do you think if the cast starts segueing, because Sheena was open about the fact that she would go onto the Valley, she would love to be a part of it, but Vanderpump Rules holds a special place in her heart as long as Vanderpump Rules is still on the air. And also Lala now having a second baby, and I'm sure she'd be asked to be a part of it as well. Do you think, how do I word this? Do you think that Lisa, if Vanderpump Rules came to an end, that she would redo this with another one of her restaurants? Or do you think that she's at the point where I'm a grandmother now? I have all of these other restaurants where the hotels are dealing with like the logistics. I get to come in and make it a wonderland with my vision, and like my husband is getting older and I'm just going to live my life.
Well, I think she's gonna see how The Villa does on Hulu. I mean, we know that Lisa has tried to go off on her own and it kind of gets one season. So we'll see how The Villa does. And obviously The Villa will be a little different because I think it's more of like a resort, right? People have to book reservations. It's not like you can just drop in. So I think there'll be
Right.
less sort of fanfare, especially since it's first season and nobody knows. So I think if The Villa does well, she'll keep going. Lisa does not want to leave the spotlight. It's why she's still attached to Vanderpump. We don't need her on Vanderpump Rules.
Right.
We don't even need her restaurants anymore. And I think that after season 10, she started realizing that. I
Yeah.
think it hurt her feelings a lot, but I think she realizes that. And so she's gonna try to pivot in any way. She'll probably be spending a lot more time in Vegas and Tahoe and all these other places that she can be the big fish in a little pond.
Right. Right. And the villa was filmed in the south of France, right?
Oh, was it?
I believe so.
Oh, I didn't even think it had left the country.
Oh, really?
I mean, maybe it did. I haven't, I'll be honest. I just haven't really looked into too much about it. I just assumed because they had all American cast, it was like pretending to be in Europe, but maybe it actually was.
I remember, yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay. I remember when I got a casting notice for this, and I'm like, I don't even get casting notices. Like, guys, I am not your demographic of like, I would be like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Lisa is here. Wow, I'm so nervous. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I just thought it was funny because Lisa used to always tell Jason when Jason worked for her how much she misses the south of France and how much she wants to go back, and how like when this is all over, that's all she wants to do is kind of like go back and have her little like chateau. When I say little, I probably mean the size of the White House, you guys. Chateau, her small little White House chateau, and just kind of kick it and be out of the limelight for a second. But then also, I remember how much she loved, and I don't mean this in a negative way, because I think that in order to do what she does, you would have to love the attention, but she loves the attention. She loves the spotlight,
Oh
like you
yeah.
said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, now we get on the boat. Here we go. After Scheana gets on the boat, she decides to make a phone call to Ariana. And Ariana is with Chef Penny and Katie, and they are hiring for something about her. Okay. I love Chef Penny. Chef Penny was the one who opened up Tom Tom, and she's just a force until Pandora walks in, and then nobody gets a voice because Pandora is like the only voice. But also, Chef Penny was responsible for opening Pump, and now Chef Penny has been recruited for something about her. And for those of you who don't know, Chef Penny has a bigger fucking house than anybody on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Like, this woman is richer than all of them. All of
Really?
it. Oh, yeah. She's like square dab in the middle of Beverly Hills. I think she lives in either Beverly Hills or Bel Air. Her
Oh.
home is like double Villa Rosa. Like
Wow. Did she come
one
from family money? Did she marry into money? Did she make it through her career?
she she's been on every Food Network like show ever. And I remember her saying that. I don't remember how she got her money. I remember us
Okay.
talking about it because in the early seasons, they wanted her to be on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and
Oh.
she opted out of it. So that's all I remember, but it's just funny to see her because people, you're thinking chef, you're just like you just don't think about like, I mean, you wouldn't think about it, right? She's not like
Yeah.
a main cast member. But when I found that out, I was like, damn, Chef Penny. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But Sheena ends up making the call to Ariana and letting her know what happened. And she says, Ariana, I can't keep hating Tom for you. I saw a genuine tear from him. And Ariana was like, no, I get that. But you also need to remember, like, don't forget, like, he also hurt you too. And I wasn't the only one. And she's like, I get that, but I need to forgive him. And Ariana was like, and if that's what you need to do, I love you. If that's what you need to do, then you do it. But then when she
Yeah.
got off the phone, Katie and Chef Penny were like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's hard because it's like it is a lot to ask the person who just lost their partner of 10 years. I mean, I think they started filming, what, 2 months after the affair?
Mhm.
So, Ariana, this is still fresh. So, I would say that I too wouldn't expect my friend to think they were gonna get sympathy me about wanting to be friends with the guy who just cheated on me right away. So while I do have understanding, I am an outsider who has perspective of like, I get it. You were his friend. But I also didn't just get dumped, or I didn't just dump my, ex because he was fucking my friend. So I can have perspective. I'm
Right.
not asking Ariana to have that right now, 2 months later.
And also too, like I saw a couple comments last night where fans were saying, yes, Scheana, you lost a friendship of over 15 years, but she lost a relationship of 10 years and also a friendship with this other girl. And which one's worse? Like losing your life partner that you share a home with and all of the things, or losing this best friend that you get to call like 2, 3 times a week and be like, hey, what are you doing? You know?
I mean, I didn't really like that comparison because my friendships are so important to me that like losing a relationship, I don't think that you can compare, but I do think obviously in this moment, they have a shared life, they have a house. You just think about all of the other obstacles that she's going to have to go through that you're not going to have to go through because you're just losing a friendship. You're not going to have to sell your house, break up, move your animals, all of these other things that clearly are much bigger headaches.
Do you think it's a little bit selfish of her?
I mean,
And I'm saying, and we know, and by the way, and I know that
yeah.
Erica watches, and I know, like, I get that. I'm not saying like to attack Scheana. I'm saying
Yeah.
like as a viewer, do you think that the viewers are swaying in the way of, well, this is a little bit selfish of you to be telling Ariana this right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides. I can see like you're making this very centered, self-centered about you right now. But I can also be like, but it is also about me because I did also lose a long-term relationship as well. And so I just want to hear I want to feel heard and seen. Look, I would say that Lala was doing a great job of really defending. Again, this happened on the after show of defending Scheana because she said to, it was James and Scheana and Lala on the after show. And Lala said to James, people were giving you empathy at the reunion. They were saying, she said, Ariana even said to you, no, I mean, James lost a brother too. She's like, but I haven't seen people giving that same grace to Scheana. Nobody's saying you also lost a best friend. So I did think that Lala was doing a really good job of having Sheena's back in that moment, which was really nice. Again, I can see both sides. Yes, it feels selfish in that moment, but also understand.
Oh, Lala. Wow, what a 180 we have done. Okay, what did you think about Lala calling out Tom? Because at first she was like, how did you feel about the day? And then she's like, by the way, I have another question for you. And I was like, oh shit, this is like when Lisa Rinna wants to play a game at the table. And she goes, how were you able to look me in my face, dead in my face, and sit there and call me fake and say that I did all of these things and I wasn't truthful, all while knowing at the same time that you were having a 7-month affair with your girlfriend's, one of your girlfriend's better friends? Like, how were you able to do that? And then Tom just lost his shit. And he was like, Lala, you hid your shit for 6 years. You're never truthful. You never tell your story. You never share your life. And she's like, some of that is true, but also nobody beats me up more than I beat myself up. And it wasn't 6 years, you asshole. It was 2 years. And then the other 4 years, I shared Randall with everybody and I was running around with him. So it wasn't 6, it was 2. Yes. But then, as they're arguing, Lala would get up, she would flip out, she'd walk away. You thought the argument was done, and she's like, I'm not done. She would come back, then she would get 2 more words in, she'd walk away, she'd sit down, then she'd come back. Like, I thought it was comical.
No, it was. And at the end of the day, that entire scene was purely just, for lack of a better term, a dick swinging contest because
Right.
all Lala wanted in that moment was to say, I got you. And you're gonna apologize to me for all of those fucked up things. And if he had just done that and been humble and been like, "You're right," she would have moved on. But because he has such an ego, he just can't just ever submit. And so he's
It's
going to
not gonna
find an
happen.
excuse. And so, of course, it's going to blow up. But it's just like, look, Lala knows she was in the wrong. All she's saying is that you were in the wrong and I was right, and tell me I'm right and shut up. But he can't do it.
No. And then when Scheana tried telling him, like, this is what she's trying to say, I think Scheana, and I'm sure this was edited out, she was like, you're on like the brink of a breakthrough. Like now you took like 4 steps forward and you're taking 10 steps back. Like reel it back in. And he's like, Lala, I don't think I know what I was saying to you. I didn't understand the context of the conversation. And it's like, no, it was pretty straightforward. The context of the conversation. It was, you sat there and talked a ton of shit about me and my life to my face while you were also lying about yours. That to me is pretty like, okay, we don't really have to read between the lines on this one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay. Then we end up hugging it out. And then we come home to drunk Brock. And they're like, how did Brock get so drunk? I don't know. He's like, can I get a tequila topped off with Smirnoff? Can I get more tequila shot? And I've never, by the way, guys, I've never heard of that drink. I don't ever want to try
Well,
that drink.
okay, so first I was trying to figure out, I was like, tequila topped off with Smirnoff, what? But then I realized he must mean like one of those Smirnoff ice seltzers. So he must have like a tequila with like a little seltzer, flavored seltzer, which is still weird though, because it is malt liquor or vodka.
I was wondering if it was because Scheana reps Smirnoff.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. Yeah. She has a brand deal with Smirnoff where I believe she can only be seen drinking Smirnoff.
Oh, well then I guess that she probably brought it on the boat. And so then the only mixer was probably Smirnoff.
Okay. Well, because that actually, I mean, that just kind of struck me before I asked that question with you. I was like, oh, actually, this makes a lot of sense because when Jason and I helped host Sheena's, live show back in August, Scheana in return threw an after party for herself and also for Jason because he missed the closing of Pump. So we invited a ton of Pump people, and they were asking in return for the venue, can she post about, can she post like the bottle service and all of this? And she's like, I can't post unless it's Smirnoff. And so we were like, okay, perfect. And then that just struck me, and I'm like, oh no, it must be a Smirnoff thing. It must be a brand deal.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Fucking, I hate the fact that like breaking the fourth wall just lives in my head. Like, I just want to watch these shows as a normal viewer from middle America again, and I can't go
Yeah.
back. I can't unsee what I've seen. All right. So we get back with Drunk Brock, and I love Drunk Brock because he's happy. He's not like Tequila Katie. So he's not like pissed off and just like wanting to fight everybody and rage texting. So I really enjoy him, and he just passes out and he goes away. So that is my favorite kind of drunk. But when we get back to the house, Scheana ends up breaking down again while she's in the room with Lala, and she is talking about this page 6 article. And Lala said, like, stop looking it up. And she's like, I'm not looking it up. I'm looking at my mentions. She's like, that is looking it up. You are looking
Yeah.
for it. And she's like, and Lala said, has Ariana defended you on it or said anything? And Scheana goes, of course not. And I was like, oh, this is also adding to the beginning of this switch. And then when Scheana goes into, I've been there for her, and people are forgetting that I've also been hurt, but I have been there for her. And even when she got Dancing with the Stars, she knew how bad I wanted that. She knew how bad I wanted it, and I still supported her. And I'm like, okay, I love you, girl. But what the does that have to do with the affair and all of these other things? Like, one, I don't think has anything to do with the other. Her getting these opportunities, this is now coming off like we have a tad bit of envy within the group for all of the success that Ariana is garnering at this moment.
And I totally understand that. And just like you can't stop breaking the fourth wall, my mind can't stop thinking about it from a storytelling perspective for viewers. And in that moment, what I said was, of course, Scheana is going to get hell for this online. The minute she said, of course she didn't, I was like, oh girl, you about to get lit up on Twitter. But
X.
She was being honest because any person who will sit out there and say that they haven't gotten jealous of a friend who was getting things that they didn't get is a liar. I'm sorry. We've all
Right.
had it. And like, you want to grow out of it, of course, but like it happens, it happens. And to be honest about that on camera is such a vulnerability. And it's giving us the ammo to talk about it. And she's gonna get ripped apart, and she knows she is. And so for me as a producer, I would be like, thank you. Thank you for giving us this honest. Because if she had sat there and been like, you know, everyone was just like kissing ass and not I like those real and raw moments. Because I'm sure yeah, she did. Scheana obviously very much wants to be a performer. And I'm sure she has talked to Ariana about wanting to be in Dancing with the Stars. And I'm sure, she was so happy to see her friend, but I'm sure it did, get under her skin that like she didn't get to do it first. But again, hard to see on camera, but it gave us a moment to talk about.
It gave us a moment. And, also to add to that, I think for all of them who are talking about that, like even when Lala and Scheana were having the conversation and Lala was like, Ariana is getting all of the success right now. Like you are allowed to also have your feelings and all of this. The one thing that I just didn't necessarily agree with was, yes, I get that she is getting all of the success and this is not something that she asked for. But at the end of the day, with her getting all of the success and stuff, I don't think that negates the situation. And that means that you get to behave any differently as if she wasn't getting the success. Like, would you still be willing to talk to Tom Sandoval if Ariana was sitting at her house and crying and her whole life and career came crumbling down and Vanderpump Rules fired her because they're like, you're no longer with Tom, the number one guy in the group? Like, would you still be kind of swaying in that direction, or does it make it easier for you to sway in that direction towards Tom because you see she's making a lot of money, right?
That's a very, very good point because you're right. If Ariana was at home in a dark space spiraling, I don't think that anybody would be talking about, "Oh, we need to go be there for Tom," at all. So
Right.
you're right. I think that, weaponizing her success as a reason to be like, "You're okay, so we should be allowed to talk." You're right.
Okay. And then lastly, before we end up signing off on this, PR stunt or no?
So because I've been having conversations with people offline and off the record, I now retract what I said, and I don't think it's a publicity stunt.
Okay.
Sounds
Well,
like
that's good to know.
there's yeah. Well, it is, but it's also not because it's like
I
it
mean,
does
right.
sound like yeah.
Like it's not good to see a
Um,
relationship and a family fall apart, but it's
yeah, yeah.
you guys get what, don't attack Kiki. You get what she meant and leave me out of this. I didn't have anything to do with this. This is just part of the normal programming of this Vanderpump Rules recap. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know. That's good to know. Well, now before we end up leaving, what are you looking forward to most going into the rest of the season? Is it the segue into the valley? Is it seeing how this relationship unfolds with Scheana and Tom, how it affects Ariana? Like, where are we at?
I said from, last season, because I wondered how they would transition in season 11. I would like to see the raw moments of how they're feeling and handling, seeing the success of Scheana and really focusing on the dynamic between the women. I really actually don't even want the men in the equation. I actually just want to see the dynamic amongst the women. And again, I think Scheana gave us that. And will it continue? I'd like a bit into that. She told Ariana to get her head out of her ass. And, so I would like to see how that's navigated. Is it going to be a Scheana Lala versus Katie, Ariana? Um, I will say for Lala's sake, it's probably pretty good that she announced her pregnancy because I think people will go easier with her online if stuff does start coming out.
I
So
didn't even
I'm
think
not
about
saying
that, but yeah.
obviously that was the reason, but I'm just saying it's probably good for her. So yeah, I want to see the women and how they navigate this truly
And the fact that she launched the pregnancy on the anniversary of
on
Scandal.
Scandiversary.
The Scandiversary. Okay, guys. Well, For everybody who's watching, if you don't know, Kiki's going to let you know. We're going to start with her Instagram and then we're going to move over to her YouTube, which she is avidly growing. Here we go. Can you see?
Yes, I can see. And
Okay.
yeah, I actually did. Speaking of Scandalversary, I just tomorrow on Pop Crime, an episode I did breaking down all of the Vanderpump lawsuits, and Scandalversary is coming out tomorrow on Pop Crime. I'm back on Reality Checked on Sirius tomorrow. And yeah, obviously on the Talk of Shame, I'm gonna be doing all my videos on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm gonna start doing daily lives on YouTube very soon.
I love that. And I think that when we were talking about the daily lives and everything, I think it's so fun because, especially here with guys over 500 in the room, love you guys. Smash the like button, show some love, and definitely go give a follow. And if you weren't able to catch it in the screen sharing, then you can just go to the description of this video and you can find where you can find Kiki. You can find where you can find. But it's just such a great way to like bond the community together, and everybody loves popping off in the live chat and just like seeing each other and, you know, talking. And so I'm all for it. If you ever want somebody to come play with you on YouTube, Kiki, give me a shout.
Oh, of course. I will be inviting you straight away.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Happy Wednesday. Well, tonight is the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And also, wait, are we done with Miami, the reunion? I think we are.
I think no, we still have some more, and I think Bet It On Blonde is starting, and so I think
Put it all
we
on
got
blonde.
reunions. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you later.